Hey, John, can you hear me okay?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Always a pleasure to hear you. How's your day going so far?
Well, a little hectic because I didn't look at my press schedule close enough and didn't realize we were doing a Zoom. I thought it was a phoner, so I was in my bathrobe, and then I said, "Oh shit, I gotta notch it up a little bit here."
Looking dashing as always. I think
Oh,
everyone's going to agree with that one. And
thank you.
am I getting you from Colorado or Tennessee?
No, we're in Nashville right now. We're actually going to Colorado tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah, we're
And
going to escape to the mountains.
I mean, a lot of us here on the East are dealing with the storm and all that. You guys are
I know.
fine?
I saw that. No, it's fine here. It went right up the coast, but yeah, I saw that you guys are getting hit. It doesn't look as bad as some of the other ones, hopefully.
Sure. Now, speaking of the storm and all that, or rather Nashville, your new album is live in Nashville. Now,
Yeah.
when you were taping it with the band, did you know that outright, like, hey, this is going to be a live album, or did you just happen to tape a bunch of shows?
No, we didn't tape any shows. We taped one show, and this is it. What happened was I had been working with the Good Road Band ever since the Arkansas album. So it was about 2.5 years. Actually, it was a little longer because we started earlier than the record itself. We had really, I was doing double duty. I was on tour with Hall & Oates. I'd come off the road for a period of time. I'd go out with the guys. We'd do shows. So over that 2-year period, the band really gelled, and it was just so much fun to do that music. And I saw kind of a horizon for that project. The Arkansas album had been out for 2 years. We had done a lot of touring. The band was playing great. And I didn't know, I knew Daryl. Well, theoretically, Daryl and I would have been in the middle of a 40-city tour as we speak.
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, 2020, I'm going to be really doing a lot of Hall & Oates shows. I said, I really need to capture the magic and all the hard work that we put into the Good Road Band, before we kind of shut it down for a while. So in January, I booked a show at the Station Inn, which, kind of fittingly is where I first started playing with these guys. So it was got kind of a full circle thing. And I thought, it's such a great venue. It's intimate. There's always a great vibe in there. I've always had wonderful shows there. I said, let's just do the Station Inn one more time, almost like a last waltz kind of thing for us.
Sure.
I said, well, let's, we'll videotape it, we'll record it, just for posterity, whatever. I had no intentions really of releasing anything. The video didn't, the video's okay. It came out all right, but it wasn't really of the quality that you would want a broadcast quality. But the audio, on the other hand, was amazing. And the band was on fire. I thought to myself, and then when everything shut down with COVID, I thought, I've got this amazing live performance and I'm not going on tour. I'm not doing anything. So maybe I should release it. And that's when we took it in the studio. We remixed it. We didn't change a thing. We just gave it a great mix. And now, ironically, with the fact that there's no live music, all of a sudden a live album kind of has a little bit more, vibe or special quality. I'm hoping people will enjoy that fact. It was just kismet in a way. I never intended it to go that route, but I've got a great live album, and the band sounds incredible. And did you get a chance to hear it by chance?
Yes, I was about to ask you about that music video. You said that the video didn't come out that great. I love the Laurel and Hardy-like effect of the black and white pixels and the lines and all that. Is that to hide the fact that perhaps the video quality wasn't as ideal as you wanted it to be?
Bingo.
Okay.
Yeah, no, what happened was I went through the entire 2-hour show. It was a 2-hour show. It was a long, long show. I went through the 2-hour show, and I picked the videos that were closest to being good.
Yeah.
And then I took it to an amazing video director, the guy who did my Arkansas video. Mm-hmm. And he's just really creative, young video director. And I said, can you take this, pretty average live video, and can you do something with it? Whatever you want, colorize it, do your work your magic. And so he did. So we ended up with 4 really cool videos, which he manipulated and digitized and did all sorts of cool things. So now we have 4 basic promo videos for the album, but we don't have a full show.
But that Anytime video is the one that I'm referring to.
Yeah.
It looks great to me. It sounds great as well. And it amazes me that you kind of alternate between playing arenas and amphitheaters. You know, Hall & Oates business is arguably the best it's ever been. You sold out earlier this year at Madison Square Garden, which a lot of people can't really do at their peak. But then you play a show like this where people can see your shoes. You are a foot's distance from the people in the front row, according to the Anytime video. Do you like being that close to people?
I like both things. They're two completely different experiences. But interestingly enough, there's a lot of similarities. What Daryl and I try to do in the big arenas is we try to, as best as we can, to create this intimacy by being as natural as possible. We don't use a lot of, smoke bombs, and we don't use any samples. It's a real band playing live. Right. And that's what Hall & Oates is all about. It's real music, it's real songs, it's real singing and playing. Well, when I play at the Station Inn in front of, as you say, a foot from the audience, it's the exact same thing. It's just scaled down, and of course there's definitely more easier to relate to the audience because they are literally right in front of you. So in a way there's a lot of similarities, in a way they're completely different. The energy, I think, is the difference. The biggest difference is the energy. When you go on to a sold out Madison Square Garden show, there's this energy in the room that's palpable. It's electric, it's kinetic, you feel it. It jacks you up. When you play the Station Inn, it's all about like kind of having a good conversation in the living room. It's about, that real, no fourth wall, no artifice. It's all about just, hey, here we are. We're going to play some songs for you. We're going to talk to you. Oh, we're going to talk, actually literally talk between the stage and the audience. So, so in that regard, it's different. And like I said, so a little bit of each.
And people have been following your career closely know that you've always fostered younger talent, written for other talent and all that, from Icehouse to Blue, who is a great guy who I know that we both know and all that. Yeah. I love the album that you did that had Losing It in Louisiana, or Lose It in Louisiana, rather, and all that. Yeah. So you've kind of had this dual journey of #1 hits, deep cuts, and all that.
Yeah.
Do you get to play everything that you want to play live, or do you still feel like there's a lot of stuff that you haven't done?
Well, with Daryl and I absolutely do not get to play everything that we want to play. We have this incredibly good problem. We have too many hits,
right?
Which a lot of people would I'm sure, pray for. But and in a sense, I think we have a professional responsibility to play the songs that people kind of want to hear. And we are very proud of those hits. No problem there. But at the same time, we have 300 songs, and some of the deep cuts are pretty interesting musically and more adventurous, perhaps. We would like to do that. We don't have enough time in the Hall & Oates show. This, my solo work gives me an opportunity to really. What it really does for me is give me a chance to go back to my earliest musical influences, the stuff that I was doing before I met Daryl, folk, blues, roots music, and having moved to Nashville and being part of the Americana community has given me that kind of infrastructure, that family of musicians who really understand that music, really know how to bring it out, know how to play it. That we have a lot of the same, musical touchstones. Sam Bush and I, if I talk about Doc Watson to Sam Bush, well, Sam played with Doc and Merle. Sam's played Merle Fest for 30 years. So you know what I mean. There's a lot of commonality there among the players. A lot of the players in the Good Road Band grew up on the same music that I grew up on. So even though they're some of them are younger than me, so that's so that's where that connection happens.
Well, speaking of influences, you put out Our Kind of Soul on vinyl earlier this year as a reissue of sorts. And when I think of you and your musical lexicon, of course, first I go to the Motown R&B thing. You just talked about roots and all that. Was there ever a period in your life where you liked or followed hard rock at all?
Not really. I think about the hardest rock that I ever followed really was more the stuff, the English blues rock, the Stones and the Yardbirds and Jeff Beck and things like that. Because they were, in a sense, it was it was already familiar to me because I already knew the originals. So, I knew Muddy Waters and I knew Lightning Hopkins. And so I was hearing kind of a reimagined version in the 60s from them. And I always thought that was, even though I didn't think it was as groundbreaking as a lot of people thought it was, because they didn't really understand where those guys were coming from. It was, that's about it, really. Growing up in Philadelphia in the 60s was a really unique and amazing time because, as you said, from the R&B and the soul, the Uptown Theater was a place that, I went to on Saturday nights and saw all the greats, Sam and Dave, Otis Redding, The Temptations, Smokey Robinson, The Miracles, Impressions, whatever. But at the same time, the Philadelphia Folk Festival was going on, and two amazing coffee houses in Philadelphia, the Second Fret and the Main Point, which I used to go to all the time. So I got to see all the roots performers and the folk performers who were being rediscovered during the folk revival. And so there was this really, and it was, to me, instead of being like two different worlds, it was really, I saw the connection between those worlds. To me, it all made sense. Here's the guys that started it. Here's how it evolved in Memphis and became Stax Volt. Here's how it evolved in Chicago and became Curtis Mayfield. Here's how it evolved in Detroit and became Motown. So I saw the continuum between that music. So I've never really made a dichotomy. There was no line of demarcation between the roots music and the R&B of the 60s. It was just a continuous flow.
Well, where I was going with all that with the hard rock is one of my favorite things that you've ever been associated with was the Covers album by The Bird and the Bee. And you endorsed it publicly. You performed with them. That was great. It was an interesting take on a great catalog of songs that helped make them fresh over and over and over again. But volume 2 of The Bird and the Bee of that series was Van Halen. When I think of bands that dominated the 80s, and I think of the top 5 bands, I'm definitely going to think of Hall & Oates, and I'm going to think of Van Halen. Yet I don't know if I've ever read about your path crossing with them, even though you were at the highest of highs at the same time.
Our paths crossed with them all the time. We actually shared a lot of the same production people. We shared the same security guy, the same lighting designer, sound man, some of our roadies and technicians. So Van Halen would come off the road and the guys would go on the road with us, and vice versa. Then they'd go back to Van Halen. And, we hung out with those guys, not a lot, but, because, in those days you were moving so fast that the various solar systems would only kind of come in proximity. They'd come in proximity, but very seldom intersected. So, yeah, I mean, those guys, one of the great rock bands of all time, without a doubt. And, we were both kind of hitting our stride at the same period of time.
And you and David Lee Roth seem to have the same exact influences from the Gamble and Huff catalog and all that. If you've ever seen him re-recording the vocals of Love Train over and over and over, so it's 40 on top of each other.
I think I missed that one, but I think I might have to dig back in and find that.
But back to you, as I was saying before, you've always embraced younger talent and ridden with a lot of them. And people who are looking at your YouTube channel not only see the new video for Any Time on there, but see that you've been recording stuff from your homes, covers and inside the house and all that. Are you the kind of person that's writing or playing every day, even when they're not on the road?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, this COVID thing has really, this is the longest time I've been home since I started as a professional musician in 71 or 72, which is kind of crazy to think about. I remember about a month into this thing, I remember waking up one morning and said, so this is what retirement's like, huh? I said, I don't think I like it that much. But what it did is it gave me an opportunity to, I rebuilt my home studio. I hadn't really used much home studio stuff because there's so many amazing professional studios here in Nashville and so many amazing professional musicians that whenever I wanted to do something, I would just call. Hey man, you want to do a session? I'd put an incredible band together. We go in the studio, incredible engineer, great sounds. But all of a sudden I wasn't doing that. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to, because I used to do a lot of programming back in the 80s, back in the Hall & Oates days, in the primitive way that we had, with early synthesizers, early like little multi-track cassette players.
Mm-hmm.
I would do some programming and take that programming into the studio, and then it became records. Stuff like that, like on Out of Touch. I programmed the chorus of Out of Touch prior to actually taking in the studio and making the record. So I had really kind of left that behind for many, many years. And all of a sudden I took out my old MIDI keyboard and, got my programming together, my speakers, and all of a sudden began to write. And so this has been a really, really inspired period for me. I've written more songs in the last couple months than I've written in the last 10 years.
Wow.
And branched out with different styles as well. I wrote a theme song for a car blog that wanted an 80s feel. And I kind of channeled my 80s vibe and did a sequencer thing. Working with a young hip hop artist from South Carolina on a movie track, which is incredible. In fact, I'm working on a movie as we speak, a great movie called Gringa, which is going to come out, as soon as they get their distribution together. And I've got 3 songs in that movie, one of which I'm doing a duet with a Mexican female singer. And the other one I wrote with a good friend of mine named Daphne Willis and Aaron Wright. We wrote it via Zoom, as a matter of fact. And that'll be in the movie. And so, there's a whole bunch of stuff happening. I stay active. I'm really getting a chance to, look a little bit more inward, during this period of time.
You just mentioned that you've written more in the past few months than you had in the 10 years prior, and talked about how you were big into home recording and all that. Does that mean that there's like 100 John Oates songs that could eventually see the light of day?
I wouldn't say 100, but there are some good ones. Actually, right before the whole thing broke down, Daryl and I were getting ready to talk about making a record together. So immediately I switched into that mental, creative mode, and started writing things that I thought sounded like a possible Hall & Oates songs, which I actually sent a few to Daryl, and he was like, "Oh man, this is cool. Keep doing it." And we never got together because the whole thing, kind of fell apart. Hopefully we'll revive that idea and get back to it down the road. But for now, so I've got that backlog of Hall & Oates type songs. I've got some folky country type stuff that I've written with some Nashville writers via Zoom. And here again, I've got 3 songs in the Gringa movie. Those songs are all completely different. And it's fun. So, I've been living in the musical past, kind of reimagining the old music from the 1920s and 1930s. And now I've kind of done that. And I feel like now I'm thinking about what's happening right now. And it's definitely more contemporary in feel.
Well, going back to what I was saying before, where that you guys are doing the best tour numbers you've ever done, or comparable to that. When was it that you kind of realized that you didn't need hits to be this very successful cottage industry?
Well, we did need hits, because we wouldn't have been the cottage industry if we didn't have those hits. The reality is that the songs supersede everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to use this in any kind of negative way, but just use the Eagles as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Here you have, unfortunately, the great Glenn Frey passing away. His son, gets on stage. They hire Vince Gill, and arguably sound better than they've ever sounded before. And it's the songs that people need to hear. Those songs transcend the personnel in the band, believe it or not. Look at Journey, the great Steve Perry is no longer singing, but Arnell is an incredible singer. And, of course, he sounds a lot like Steve Perry. And Journey has done, incredibly well, because the younger generation doesn't even know who sang those songs. But the songs, the power of those songs, the longevity and the shelf life of these songs are really what makes the difference.
That makes sense. But where I'm going with that is, here in New York, we know that a year has gone by when they announced the Jones Beach summer concert schedule. in recent years, you've played Forest Hill Stadium, but the bottom line is it's the summer. Yep, Hall & Oates are playing. It's
Right.
okay. We might see John Oates playing at City Winery or a more intimate space here. It's kind of like you guys are always on the road, and even when you were, years between albums, it would still be, oh, they're playing the amphitheater or the arena again. So I'm curious when you reached that point where, even though you had this great catalog that you knew of, well, we're going to be around forever, even if VH1 isn't playing videos and MTV isn't embracing us, we're going to be okay.
Well, I think the way Daryl and I have always thought about ourselves and our career was that it was more important to sustain who we would be as musicians and let the chips fall where they may. Fortunately for us, we had commercial success, which allowed us to continue, on a upward trajectory. But let's just say the hits wouldn't have happened. Somehow or another, he and I would both be musicians. I don't know what we'd be doing. Maybe we wouldn't be working together. Maybe I'd be producing. Maybe I'd just be a songwriter. Maybe I'd be playing acoustic guitar in a folk club. Maybe he'd be, joining another band, or, who knows what he would be doing. But that's the decisions that we made. How do we continue to be musicians and keeping your eye on that and focused on that, as opposed to success? The success comes from the hard work, the dedication, the professionalism. That's where success comes from. If your goal is to be successful, if your goal is to be a star, if your goal is to be a superstar, basically, that's the wrong way to look at things.
Right.
They should be being a star, being, a big name should be the byproduct of the work, the professionalism, and the dedication.
That makes a lot of sense. And you were talking about before how you're playing every day and all that. Are there other facets of your life that get nearly as much attention as music besides family?
You mean besides my wife?
Well, I said family. I assume that your wife is part of the family, but.
Oh yeah. Well, she and I have spent a lot of time together recently. So, as we can all probably relate, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to see our son, who lives in DC, and my father, who's 97, lives in Pennsylvania. We haven't seen him, so we do FaceTime and things like that. We're not super social in terms of going out, partying, hanging out, big dinners and things. We've never even done that during the normal periods of time. So that doesn't bother us too much. I get out and I do a lot of hiking. I go into the mountains. I love being outdoors. I drive my car. I have some antique cars, sports cars, and I like that sort of thing. I get out into the country roads and just zone out, and no radio, no phone, and it gives me a chance to just kind of revitalize myself. So that's what I've been doing, and the rest of the time it's music.
Where I was going with that is, man, you still look great all these years later. Man-to-man compliment right there. The guy's still in shape. He's never been out of shape. How much of that is actually trying to exercise, you said hiking, and diet versus kind of luck?
A lot of it is genetic. My father's 97. He's amazing. He's still, he could still swing a golf club, believe it or not. So, I got the lucky genes on that side of things. But I've been an athlete ever since I've been a kid. I was a wrestler, and I did all that sort of thing. And I did a lot of bike riding, a lot of serious skiing and bike riding, backcountry skiing, mountain climbing. Lately, I've been doing yoga. I took up yoga quite a while ago, and that's been one of the greatest things for me ever. It's really changed my life in a lot of ways. And my wife is very conscious of eating healthy, and we do our best, so.
You sound like one of those people that work really hard, but can turn it off when they want to or need to.
I'd like to. Sometimes I can't. You don't see me at 3 o'clock in the morning when my eyes pop open like this, and my brain is like going, that happens too. So I'm a bit of a workaholic. I admit it. But I do like to be busy. So.
But there are instruments behind you. I can't tell you how many Zoom interviews I've done where the people did not have instruments there. Or, for example, Brian Wilson, who I love the music of, his piano is out of tune in those Rolling Stone Instagram videos. So,
yeah, well, that's all right. The records he made make up for any shortcomings he may have now.
Absolutely. And winding down here, of course, being respectful of your time, 3 quick questions. The first one is, you've always been outward about having a sense of humor and, you know, knowing that people perceive you a certain way, but not taking yourself too seriously. The cartoon pilot of J-Stash was an example of that. I know the folks at Primary Waves, so they took me to that a long time ago. But was there a moment in your career where you kind of turned things around and you realized, maybe I don't have to take myself too seriously?
I've always been kind of that way. I really didn't, you know, the one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to be locked into that guy from the 80s, you know, the mustache, the pink pants, and the outrageous thing, you know, whatever. I did want to leave that behind, but at the same time, it's part of me, you know. So in a way, the mustache has become some weird iconic touchstone for millennials. Don't, whatever. Still got it attached to a goatee, so I had to modify it a bit.
Sure.
Kind of keeping up with the kids. But I don't know. It's fun now. I think I embrace it a little bit more as I've gotten older. I just created a logo, a mustache-shaped logo with my name in the middle, and I'm having all these bandanas made with my mustache logo. So you can wear a mustache in front of your mustache. So.
Wow. Okay. Question number 2 of 3. Will we ever hear you perform the song Italian Girls live?
I play Italian Girls often when I do my singer-songwriter show, because I like to talk about it. I always say that the second verse of that song is one of my favorite verses I've ever written. I drink too much vino rosso and say no more Amarone. I eat too much pasta, basta. I'm so full and yet so lonely. I think that's one of my high points in my life.
Yeah, it is a standout song with a great lead vocal, to say the least. And the closer, John, any last words for the kids?
Last words for the kids. Don't eat sweets. Listen to your parents. They're always right. No, I'm kidding. No, I've got no parting words. All I say is I hope everyone stays safe. I hope we can, collectively, as a country and a civilization, I hope we can get past this and be sensible and think for ourselves. And that's all I got.
If it isn't obvious enough, thank you for the decades of great music. And
thanks.
It's not summer without a Hall & Oates concert somewhere close to Long Island. So hopefully we'll see you next summer, to say the least.
Well, hopefully you'll have a live album from Nashville to hold you over for a month or so.
Absolutely. Great live record. Looking forward to the other videos posting to YouTube from Live in Nashville.
They're coming. Oh, well, it's kind of cool. I just did a series of acoustic guitar breakdowns where I broke down some of the songs on the live album, showing what I played as opposed to, as my guitar being part of the ensemble. So, I went into the finger picking, some of the intricate stuff. And so we're going to roll out these kind of online guitar lessons as well.
As a guitar player, I am looking forward to that as well, John.
There you go.
Thank you so much for your time.
Right.
Keep up the greatness on all ends, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Paltrocast.